Welcome back to another episode of Blueprint. This is an episode in the Kallaway series. So what does that mean? I went full-time as an entrepreneur creator 40 weeks ago. So every week since then, I've been writing a weekly post. Metrics, experiments, learnings, frameworks, everything that you'd want to know as a creator or entrepreneur. I took the veil and took it completely off. Why am I doing this? When I started, I had no idea what I was doing. I tried to find wisdom from the people that I looked up to. Problem is, nobody documents the ride on the way up. They get up there and then they look back and they try to summarize the lessons into these high-level takeaways. It's not super helpful when you're starting out. What you really want is someone's tactical perspective, almost like you're looking in the window into their house while they're building something. And you can choose to take those learnings or not, but there was none of that. So I started doing that 40 weeks ago. If you want to read along, the first 39 episodes are read only. If you want to read along, www.blueprint.game or just blueprint.game is the website. You can subscribe. It's completely free. I recommend doing that. This is the first episode that I'm doing audio and video. And we're going to be doing this moving forward. So if you're listening on audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, make sure to give a 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. I'm going to keep doing these. Let's get into it. All right, in this episode, we're going to cover 4 things. The first is my week 40 metrics and a monthly strategy update. I do that every 4 weeks. The second is called satellite accounts. This is an emerging social strategy for brands that I'm noticing where brands are having multiple accounts per platform. So they'll have multiple Instagram accounts. I'm going to explain what they're doing, why this makes sense, and why right now is a great opportunity for brands to do that. The third topic is how to stay relevant as social platforms evolve. So we've got a bunch of new platforms launching, a bunch of new companies are launching new features, new add-ons. Instagram launched Threads. When do you take advantage of those? When should you go all in on those? What's kind of the framework for thinking about that? That's topic 3. And topic 4 is 2 quick creator mindset hacks. Sometimes mindset hacks can be a little cringy. I find them really helpful actually to help think through your day and how you approach things. So I've got 2 quick ones that have been really helpful for me so far. All right, so as I go through this, if you're listening, you should probably watch on YouTube because we're gonna put a bunch of graphics and all of the supplementary visuals that you would want as I'm talking through it are gonna be on YouTube. So make sure to check that out. I'm at Kallaway on YouTube, youtube.com/@Kallaway. Check it out. The link will also be in the description. Okay, so first, week 40 metrics and strategy update. So if you've been following for a while, I was updating my kind of like creator strategy every single week. I realized this created a pretty aggressive whiplash where I do like 4 days worth of work, come back, be like, oh, I gotta change everything. And then I'd change it the next week. It was too crazy. So what I decided to do with the strategy update is bucket it into 4-week chunks. And so every 4 weeks I'll do that. So this is week 40, so we have one this week. So if you look at the metrics dashboard, you can get a quick sense for where we're at across all the key KPIs. So this week particular, 14 posts, 129,000 views, total is 516,000 followers across the platforms, etc. Income, which a lot of people care about, I had negative $267. Didn't bring in a lot of income, did not have a brand deal this week, so we actually lost money. And you can see the kind of graphic. Now, what I wanna do is get into the month 10 bucket or like the strategy update for these last 4 weeks. So if you look in aggregate, 79 posts over the last 4 weeks, almost 1 million views, 978,000 views, added 3,000 followers, and in total, $9,173 of income. So it's revenue minus my costs. All right, so there's 5 notable strategy buckets that I'm gonna talk about in today's strategy update. The first one is around content focus. So when I started out making content, I didn't want to constrain myself around a specific niche or topic because I didn't even know how to make videos. I didn't know what to cover, how to think about what topics would go viral. So I started intentionally broad. I covered new tech and cult brands, very broad. That was really good for growing followers quickly and getting a lot of views, but it was actually not super great for establishing a through line with which I could then sell products to an audience. So over time, I've tried to narrow that focus a little bit. I've had trouble over the last 6 weeks trying to figure out what is authentic to me that people want that I'm good at creating. That kind of intersection, that Venn diagram intersection, I've struggled to figure that out. So this month, one of my friends, Oren Meets World, he asked me this question. When someone watches your videos, what makes them need to hear your opinion? Not just good quality or visuals, but like really, why would they want to hear your opinion? What are you adding to the stack? So for me, upon reflection, my unique differentiator is that I can consistently generate unique business ideas across product, marketing, strategy, and content. So I call it like fresh takes on cult brands. And when I lean into this and do this a lot, my videos rip. When I don't lean into this and I'm kind of just reporting the news, they don't do that well. So moving forward, I'm only gonna make 2 types of videos. The first is my fresh take on a tech or brand story that just happened. So these are designed to be time relevant, me reacting to something in real time, designed for viral reach, but still with my fresh take. The second type of video, which I've been making a lot lately, are my marketing product content ideas for a cult brand. So these are not time relevant. I can take a brand like Patagonia, I can really think through an interesting idea that isn't based on some news that came out. So those are meant for depth. Reach depth. Those are the two types of videos I'm gonna make. I'm putting those guardrails on myself so I don't have kind of like the world of options. Doing this exercise also helped me gain clarity around who is my ideal audience for my videos, but also everything else that I'm doing. And for me, I came up with this phrase, the modern brand builder. So what does that mean? These are entrepreneurs, creators, or marketers that are deeply invested in building a cult brand. Those are the people that I think my content would resonate the most for, would get a lot of value out of, and that fall in line and bucket with what I'm good at creating. So that's kind of the first strategy update. The second one is launching my private community. So if you go back 4 weeks ago, a big goal of last month's kind of refresh looking forward was to launch my private community, again, for modern brand builders looking to level up their content. I didn't get it done this month. My goal is to launch it next week. So I have a full plan. I've done a lot of thinking around what I want it to look like, what the perks will be, how it's gonna work, what the products or offers are gonna be. So I have all that ironed out, but I haven't actually launched it yet. So I'll revisit this in Blueprint 44 once that goes live. Now, one helpful learning that came from this process that I realized, I'm really good at figuring out how to play and win a game when I have the right incentive. So when I first started making content for the social media game, my incentive was get views and grow a huge following. So I was really good at that. I made a ton of content, went viral like 50 times, grew a following pretty big. But once I realized that followers wasn't actually what I really wanted was income, and that followers did not equal income, my incentive started going down. And when that happened, I started getting less excited to make content. So as I continued creating content without that income driver at the bottom of the funnel, I began to lose the incentive and therefore the interest to create content. Now that I've decided that a private community is the right path forward for me at the bottom of the funnel, I think that making content is gonna become a lot more fun for me because now I have the right incentive alignment at the bottom. Now, this is a really key lesson for really anything in life, especially with content. If you don't feel like the reward is strong enough at the bottom, your effort is gonna slowly drift to zero over time. So you have to build in the right reward mechanism based on what you want. So for me, that's a private community. I'll keep updating as we go, but that's gonna be a big focus for this next phase. All right, topic number 3 on the state of my podcast. So I had a podcast called Weekends. I was doing it with a co-host. We ended up splitting up. I've recorded a few episodes under the Weekends brand with individual creators building in the trenches. I've rebranded the podcast from Weekends to Blueprint. So Weekends was a cool name. I was trying to build a whole like lifestyle brand around weekends. I think it had a lot of legs. There were just too many holes that created misalignment from a brand perspective with everything I'm doing. I had Blueprint, I have Kallaway, I had Weekends, I had other things. I was trying to do the community under a different name. It was just too many different brands to keep track. So the Weekends brand is out. I rebranded the podcast to Blueprint. So this newsletter is now Blueprint, which is kind of like an inside look on my processes and frameworks. And the podcast is now Blueprint, which is both these audio episodes, which is kind of from my perspective, but also interviews with other creators from their perspective, getting their processes and frameworks and monetization paths. So I think it's a lot cleaner. When you hear Blueprint, you think, oh, that's how you become a creator. And that's kind of the holistic brand that I want to build around the podcast and this newsletter. So that's kind of update number 3. Update number 4 is on my YouTube. I've always wanted to go long form video. I really hate editing long form video. So I needed an editor in order to do it. I finally locked down the right editor. His name's Charlie. I think we have a great vibe, so I'm really excited for this. Moving forward, I'm gonna have 3 YouTube videos a week. The first video is gonna be a hero video. Those formats will vary. We're gonna test a lot of different things, but all designed for the modern brand builder, content that they would get value from. The second video will be the podcast video episode, and the third video will be this Blueprint, my builder journey video episode. So we're gonna try to run 3 videos a week. Moving forward, we're gonna take it in a 4-week chunk. So the goal is 12 videos in this next 4 weeks. We'll report back next time. Then the last thing is on meditation. This is like on the 5th strategy takeaway. I've meditated on and off for the past few years. Never really stuck with me. I think the longest I did it was for like 30 days. I felt benefit in terms of less anxiety, but never really forced it in to be a habit. I kind of eventually waned off it, but I've started journaling and meditating a lot with visualization on the meditation front for the past week. And I felt a huge impact, kind of like in my general approach to the game. I feel like a lot of clarity and calmness is coming to me from it. So I know this can be a bit woo-woo for people. I'm not one of these like super spiritual, hold the crystals, see the constellation type guys, but the meditation thing seems to be working. So I'm happy to talk more about that. If you think it's interesting, shoot me a message. If you want to learn like what actual practice and technique I'm doing, I'm happy to kind of open source that, but I'm finding that it's really helpful. So to round up the strategy update, the goals for the next 4 weeks are A, launch the private community and begin talking to early users to iterate what that value prop is. The first first month of the community is going to be free, and then it's going to go to paid after that. So the goal is to get as many free people in there that actually want to do it, the modern brand builder that wants to be a part of the community, figure out what they want. I have a sense, but we'll see. So that's number one. Number two is to ship 12 YouTube videos the next 30 days, like I mentioned. And number three is to ship 20 shorts, which is 4 per week in the next 30 days. If I can hit all three of those, I'll be really happy for this next month. All right, moving into the next section of the newsletter, the satellite accounts idea. This is kind of like the cornerstone section for this. The title, Brands Are Building Ecosystems Within Each Social Channel. So I've debated starting multiple accounts per channel for a few months. So like, what would it look like to have multiple Instagram accounts? I'm noticing brands are starting to do it, and I'm gonna explain why it's a really smart move for them. So social media has existed in two major eras. The first, pre-TikTokification, which followers were the most important thing. Content reached a percentage of those followers. You had limited new discovery. New followers came mostly from shares that you got from existing followers. That was kind of the meta from when it started all the way to like 2021. Then came the post-TikTokification era. That's what we're in right now. Completely changed everything. Followers don't matter. New content is mostly shown to non-followers. You get most of your major new discovery daily from new followers that the algo pushes to. It's a complete yin and yang, A and B, complete difference. So why'd this happen? Once TikTok proved the interest-based algorithm was better than the follower-based one, every other platform had to follow suit immediately. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, they all changed from this like follower graph to this interest graph. And you could say if those networks were built from scratch around the interest graph, who knows if followers would have even been such an important thing? Probably not. So this has many implications to creators and brands and completely upended modern social strategy. So what does this really mean? So to go a little bit deeper, the new wave of social algorithms like to pattern match. If a creator makes a certain type of video and non-followers seem to like it, it will reward consistent similar videos in the future. Said another way, if you find a format that people like, hammer it over and over and over again. Any deviation from this format that doesn't really resonate will only confuse the algorithm and reduce your compounding momentum on social. This is how creators with a single unique style made consistently with high quality can grow massive followings in a super short period of time. A good example is my friend Maxim at the account @bymaximize. He started in 4 months ago with just 120 posts and has almost 600,000 followers on Instagram. He has one format, he tweaks within it, but he has one major format, hits it every single day. The algorithm has found people that like it and continues surfacing that to those people over and over and over. Now, here's the flip side. As humans, we know that the creators and brands that we love the most show up consistently across many different formats, more like a portfolio of styles versus one single style. And we love them more deeply because we get to know multiple sides of their personality and their identity. Take George Heaton, for example, my favorite brand founder right now, founder of Represent. He makes daily vlogs, static product shots, podcast clips, workout compilations, and all types of other formats. But he's beloved because of the consistency in his identity across many formats. Now, back to the algorithms. If George or any brand really wanted to get the most juice out of the current social algorithms, he would create within a limited set of formats that were proven to work over and over and over. This would result in fewer misses and faster compounding. But then, of course, he would lose the depth benefit of the portfolio of styles approach. So the question really is, how do you take advantage of both? Building an ecosystem of formats to enhance depth while also using fewer formats to supercharge reach. These are polar opposites, and that makes it a conundrum. So the answer, as I'm saying, is multiple accounts. In the pre-TikTok era, having multiple accounts would have just fractured the compounding because there was no God mode algorithm showing your stuff to non-followers. But now you can make the argument that brands should have their hub account and then many satellite accounts, each designed to optimize for a different, unique style. And that's exactly the observation that my friend JT Barnett, I've linked him in the written version, I'll link him below. That's exactly what he said in this video, which is where I got the idea for this segment. He uses the brand Immi, which is a modern, healthy packaged ramen alternative, as the example. Immi has their main account, @ImmiEats, and then they also have @Ramen on the Street, where it's just clips of someone wearing a ramen suit interviewing people in New York on benches. So why does this make sense? Once they found the success with the on the street style content, making a second count to feature at just over and over enabled faster growth. And you can see they have 130,000 followers on the satellite account and only 10,000 followers on the main account. In my opinion, every brand should follow this. Every brand should have a flagship account that's kind of like the hub for formal brand content and reposts, but then also an experimental hidden labs account where they're trying anything and everything, trying any format to find something that sticks. And as soon as they find something that works, they should start a new account dedicated specifically to that format and run it over and over until it stops working. As long as all the satellite accounts have the ability to have links, it really doesn't matter where the sales come from. And this is the same thinking that people like Andrew Tate and Iman Gadzhi used to grow their personal brand super big. Although their satellite accounts weren't run by them, they were run by 18-year-old dudes who they gave a bunch of clips to and created all these accounts on TikTok. It's the same exact idea. The satellites fuel the main brand and you get sales on all of them. So the final question is, how would I apply that to something like me, a personal brand creator instead of a brand? One way would be to have a separate account where I only do like green screen style content. So maybe my main account is this like high polished, high quality stuff, but then I have a second account that only does green screen reactions. Another way would be to do a category base where I have like at Kallaway Tech, where the only thing I cover is tech videos. And then I have other ones that are kind of industry specific. But either way, as a creator, there's kind of two things you need to be true before you try this. The first one, you need a place to drive the traffic. It doesn't make sense to build multiple silos unless you actually have one common place that you're driving the traffic to. And the second thing is, you need the bandwidth or the team resources to be able to operationalize each new account consistently for a long time. So what doesn't make sense is for me to go from posting 6 videos a week on one account to then posting 3 videos a week on 2 different accounts. That's not what you want. If you're gonna add a second, you need to be consistent with both at a high volume. But if you're a brand, as soon as you have the capacity and team to focus on this, I think you should. This is a massive untapped strategy, especially for brands. We've seen it for viral creators and kind of like snake oily course kind of people. We haven't seen it for brands, and I think it will really work. All right, the third section in this week's post is about how to stay relevant as new social platforms evolve. So we're seeing a lot of new social platforms evolve. Threads came out 10 months ago. That's Instagram's kind of Twitter competitor. We've seen AirChat, which is Naval Ravikant's new kind of audio-only Twitter competitor. TikTok's teasing a photos app. We don't know if TikTok will survive, but if they do, they're trying to have like a still photos app. YouTube has the community text feature. Farcaster is a crypto-based Twitter competitor. The list goes on and on. There's all these different social apps being built. 2 questions pop into my mind. The first one, when does it make sense to jump into new platforms fully? And the second one, what is the framework for staying relevant on the main social platforms as they grow and mature? And the answer for both ties together. So the truth is, the early stages of a new network provide the best ROI for growth. Because simply put, it's a supply and demand mismatch. A lot of people on there want content, not a lot of content on there. So if you're one of the early people providing content, you're gonna grow super fast on those platforms. Best ROI on your time. But like most things, new entrants to markets often fade. And once the shiny object syndrome wears off, most of those platforms are gonna slowly fade away into obscurity, and all that work you did to build a following and build authority is gonna be for nothing. The exception though is when a new platform is tied to an existing one, and the incentives are aligned for the parent company to push it. So for example, I think using Threads for text posts will help your reach for videos on Instagram. I think using the community text feed on YouTube will help your YouTube videos do better and your subscribers grow. I think using TikTok's Notes app, if it comes out, would help your TikTok videos grow. Why? Because the parent companies want 2 things. They want diversified data to train their AI models. They want photo, video, text, all types of multimodal data, but they also want increased ecosystem time across every app in the ecosystem. That's how the advertising dollars go up. Both of those are important. So in that sense, new platforms can really be divided into 2 groups. The first are new extensions to existing ecosystems. That's like Threads getting launched by Instagram, and then new platforms. And my hunch is that there's a lot of invisible tailwinds that come from posting on the fledgling extensions to existing platforms. Now quickly, on to the other question. What is the framework for staying relevant on big existing platforms? The progression on these platforms looks something like this. It starts out where any quantity will win. Then it's any consistent quantity of any quality will win. Then it's any consistent quantity with occasional quality will win. Then it's any consistent quantity with consistent quality or being super different wins. And then lastly, it's being consistently unique and super different. That is the priority in terms of what you need to do to win on these platforms as they mature. So for Instagram and TikTok, we're kind of in stage 4 right now, which is if you want to win, you need any consistent quantity with consistent quality. If you have less than that, it's not going to cut through. What's interesting though, is even though Instagram was founded and created in 2008, they kind of shifted back from like stage 4 or 5 to stage 1 once videos came out. As soon as Reels came out, you could have been any quantity and you would have won for a period. So it's not as though these platforms are permanently stuck in the later stages. As they launch new products and new paradigm shift and the algorithm changes, they can go back and reset. So the question I'd be asking, of course, is are there any opportunities, are there any arbitrage platforms that are earlier than stage 4 or 5 right now. I think LinkedIn short form video is about to be in stage 1. It's gonna roll out soon. I've linked that in the article in the written version. I think YouTube community text posts is stage 2 right now. Very valuable if you can post on that consistently. And then I think Threads is also at stage 2 or 3. So the key is finding platform opportunities where you aren't creating net additional work for yourself and you can get in early. Stay tuned for more updates on that. And lastly, the last section is just 2 quick creator mindset hacks. So the first one, if you have the goods, 95% of winning is just getting out of your own way. And when I say the goods, I'm talking about the sauce, the juice, the riz, some raw ability. You've got it and you know it, but you still haven't put the pieces together to make it happen. And the reason you haven't put the pieces together yet is because you're getting in your own way. In one of 2 ways. The first, you're undisciplined, so you know what needs to be done, you're just procrastinating, being lazy, not doing it. Or 2, you're overcommitted. You have way too many things on your plate and you lack the necessary focus to win at any of them. So I've experienced both of these problems over the past few months. Most of the game is just avoiding these 2 traps and getting out of your own way to let the winning happen. Remember that. Now, the second mindset hack, ask yourself this throughout the day as you do stuff. What would greatness do? I know it sounds super corny, sounds super cheesy, but it's actually super helpful, especially when you're working out. I found that I'll be benching or squatting and I'm like struggling to get the 8th rep up and I'll finally get it up. But then in my head, right as I'm about to rack it, I'll say, what would greatness do? And then I go down and do another rep. That's just a super helpful little push, little mental jailbreak that you can get more out of yourself by just reminding yourself to ask that. All right, that's it for this episode. If you like this blueprint format, please leave a comment. Let me know. Send me a note, Kallaway@wavyLabs.co. Just send me a note. I'm trying to get feedback on this format. So this will come out. It'll be like 25, 30 minutes or so. I think these would be super helpful. I mean, I am building still in the trenches, but if I was right at the beginning, I feel like this type of content would be super helpful. So keep me posted. Make sure to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.